for Mario Kart Double Dash custom tracks. And today we're going to be working on the visual model. Now, I am going to reiterate that this is not a Blender tutorial, but I will give you a couple tips and tricks on how to model the track itself. So let's get into it. We're going to be doing sort of a figure 8 track, and it's going to be very, very similar to a dirt track rally or a destruction derby type thing. As I mentioned in my first video, I'm going to do something very similar to Waluigi Stadium, where we have a Coliseum type seating around the track in the center. So I'm going to get into a little bit of the modeling. First thing to note is carts in game are about 200 units wide, so you can kind of scale your track based on that. So this we can make 200, and that is our cart size. Another thing you're going to want to need to know is you may have to edit your view settings to be a lot higher than they are default in Blender so that you can actually see the whole of the track. We are going to build our track using a couple modifiers. This is the easiest way to build a track. We're going to add a plane. I want this plane to be probably 500-ish. We're going to scale that. Not that many. Okay, that's probably about right. Make this a different color so it's easier to see. Okay. Now I am going to cut this in half. If I can go into edit mode. Side. And I'm actually going to get rid of these. Okay. So now that we have our little base bar track, we're going to give it a modifier. We are going to first and foremost give it an array. That way we can just extend this as much as we need to for however big we end up needing the track. Now, another thing we're going to do is we're going to add a curve modifier, and this will make it follow a curve that we're going to build shortly. So from here, I'm going to add a mesh that we're going to convert into a curve in a second. I do want this to have more vertices though. Mesh circle, we're going to do 256 just to make sure we have enough. And then we'll do about 5,000. Okay. So from there we can scale it up. And all I'm doing here is just building my figure 8. We're going to go about there. Make another one. Okay. Probably actually delete all of these. And then we're going to join this and this together. I'm going to create a line from here to here. Subdivide it a few times so that we get some more vertices in here. And then something very similar here. So now we should have one continual loop. Okay. Very good. From here, I'm actually planning on raising up one of these so that it goes over the top, and then the other one will go slightly under. There'll be sort of a bridge that you have to go over or under. So we'll take this side for now, and then we're just going to grab it and bring it a bit lower for now. It's probably too much, actually. I don't want to do this. We'll start here. Okay, we're going to move it negative 400, and then we're going to move this one positive 400. Just to keep those a bit separate so we know what's going on. Okay. From here, we can take this and convert it into a curve. And now we can take and give our guy over here a new path. And then as we give it more parts in the array, it fills itself out. Okay. After you get all of your modeling done on your path, you can apply your transforms. So for instance, if I grab this and move it, it changes how it follows that. So I'm going to get this done, and then I'll be right back. Okay, I lost the audio for this tape, but right here I'm saying that I sometimes use this tool called Machine Cut. It is another plugin, but you can use this to like extrude part of the mesh through another mesh, and then you can use one mesh to cut through another one. Um, so right here, I'm just selecting all of the parts I'm going to extrude down to cut through that brown portion. Okay. So we just brought that down, and then we're going to copy the mesh because when we use a mesh to cut a mesh, it deletes the one you used to cut it. So I take this, select the second mesh as our primary, and then machine cut it. So from here, you can just select all of the vertices inside that figure 8 pattern and delete it, just like this. And then from here, you can just take your track portion and then snap it down there with the magnet tool. And then you can merge them by distance. You will have to go through and do a fair amount of cleanup, but it works, and it's not that hard to do. So you can do it that way. Another way you can do it is just by taking all these and then extruding and scaling them down like this. This is what I opted to do since it makes it a little bit easier with the collision, since this outside ring or the ring just outside of the track can be off-road, and that the inside portions can be heavy off-road or walls or what have you. Much easier. But we'll get to that when we do the collision for it. So I get through this real quick, and then I'll be right back. Okay, this is roughly where we are after giving the ground a little bit of texture. From here, I'm going to actually texture the road because I want to give it a little bit more. I want to apply the textures to the road so that then I can edit this a little bit more. While it stays, nice and pretty like this, it's a lot easier to texture it. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. Okay, this is what she's looking like now. I got all of the texturing done for the main ground and the track itself, and then I even went in and gave the track itself a bit of bumps and whatnot. That way it's not too bland. But I'm actually going to go in now and add a bunch of details, including our finish line. And you'll see me when this looks a lot more filled in with various different things. Okay, here it is most of the way done, minus the boost panels, and then a little bit of modeling I'll have to do to straighten out all these guys in the crowd. But we have some boulders to sort of break up everything. We have some patches of like tires, so in case a car goes off the tracks, it can hit that. And then we have a safety rail around both berms. Nothing too crazy, but enough to make it look a little bit more interesting, even though this is sort of a quick and dirty project we're doing. So I am going to show y'all a little bit of a trick on texturing, just so we cover a little bit of that. But what we'll do is I'm going to select all of the track and then show y'all a little bit about how I texture it. So we go into UV editing. I want to go to our track. And then if we unwrap it, you're going to have something that looks very similar to this on your texture. So what I do is I rotate it until one's kind of sort of straight, and then we take this one and we're going to auto align, auto align, auto align, and auto align. So this square right here should be completely square. From there, we can actually go follow active quads, and then we get this nice bit of straight geometry that we can then put on here real simple like. And then from there, you get a road that looks very, very contiguous and all one piece. And because it's actually broken up by the finish line, you don't have to make sure those two textures mesh properly. So, okay, another thing to worry about is also face orientation. So if we go into here and do face orientation, we can see that a lot of this is red, and we want absolutely everything that the player sees to be blue, minus a couple things. Like this wouldn't really be a problem because you're never going to be looking at it from the player view, but aside from that, everything should be blue. And we'll do that in a bit, but the way you actually change those is you can do something like this where you select it, go into mesh normals, and then reticulate. Well, that would be the other way, inside or outside, depending on which way it wants to do it automatically. That way it gets most of our stuff facing inward. And then I believe we should be able to do the same thing with the crowd. It'll let me. Mesh normals, play inside. Now some of them are gonna give me trouble, so I'll just go through and manually select all those faces and flip them. And then things like the track texture, I've got one that faces this way and then another one that's flipped and faces the other way, and then those are already facing the proper way with the normal, so you'll see the correct side of it from both directions. Okay, moving on from there, we're going to talk a little bit about the boost pads. The boost pads are probably the hardest thing to get working, like vanilla. So I'll show you a little bit of that. We're going to open up a game, GameCube File Tools, just so I can show you some of the stuff. We're going to pull it off of Waluigi. Okay, so our BTK should be our animation file for this. If not, it'll be our BTP, but I think it's the BTK. Track file, visual, save. And then if we load this in J3D animation editor, which one is this? Probably that one. Don't think it's BTP. Spot. Spot. I think this is the right one. It's just not named how they're usually named. So I'll pull that up real quick. extract file. And then I'm going to load it up in RiaStudio real quick to see which one how it's actually named the materials. Okay. It is the jump board. So our BTK is the file that actually animates our chicken area here. And then it animates these two images. And that is 22 and 23. So when we look at this, it takes our jump board and it applies texture 0 and texture 1, which is, corresponds to our 22 and our 23, or our 1 and our 2, or our 0 and our 1 more accurately right here. So this one and then this one. So the second texture, it scales it double. And then I think it actually rotates it 90 degrees. So our rainbow gets rotated 90 degrees, it gets scaled up, and then these are all scale, rotation, translation. And then it gets translated 10 every, every 300 frames or so. And that's what gives you the sort of changing color. And then the arrow itself does not get scaled up at all. It only gets translated. So that's the moving arrows forward, the lines you get with the animation. So what we do when we try to match this is we actually scale it to the arrow. And then this scales up the rainbow pattern on it automatically. We are going to steal all of this portion of the animation. We'll probably have to rename our materials because I just named my boosts boost for simple naming scheme. But we'll steal this and then just change the names on those. And then that way our BTK just works automatically. From here, we're going to take and actually apply that texture. Which I have not ripped yet. So I'll pull those. Spectrum and dash. Okay, and then we are going to be using dash, like I said, because that's the one that's going to be 1-to-1. If we scaled it to the rainbow, then it would be all messed up. So open. Dash. Okay. Now from here, we can actually select all of our boost pads. I got that off. Select all of our boost pads, UV editing, and then we should actually be able to just reset these. and then go through, and we're going to have to rotate a lot of these to where they're facing the direction that we're actually traveling around the course. So this way. So I'll do all of that manual stuff, and then I'll be right back. Another thing is we're going to have to merge these to make it one image because these ones are a little bit smaller. I may not worry about that and just make it to where it's bigger to where these look good, and then these ones will just be a little bit smaller in comparison. But it shouldn't be a huge noticeable difference in the actual course. Another thing to mention about the texture work is when they're squares, you can do the follow active quads, which is a godsend. When they're already triangulated, it's really, it sucks a lot more texturing. So try to do all your texturing while stuff is still square, and then triangulate later. And then even before you triangulate, I would recommend making a copy of the course so that in the event that you have to go back and do texture work, it's not such a headache. Because even if you turn it back into squares, because there's a hotkey for it to go from tris to quads, it doesn't work. So okay, now that we have all of that done, I did make these two-part, so these ones are basically the same scale and angle as these ones in terms of texturing, which these ones are probably closer to the vanilla ones based on the angle of the arrow there. But from here, we have everything textured, everything triangulated. All of our textures we're planning on animating are there. I'm also going to animate these guys. I stole them from Waluigi Stadium, so I'm just going to steal that animation too. But that one is just a BTP animation. What it does is it flips between different textures. So you get kind of a movement from them. Another thing while we're on the topic of textures, all of your textures have to be a power of 2. So 8 by 8, 16 by 16, 32 by 32, 64 by 64, 128 by 128, 256 by 256. Try not to go above 256. They also don't necessarily have to be square. It can be 128 by 64 or any of those other numbers that I mentioned. I believe it could even be like 8 by 512. So it's just make sure it's a power of 2. The smaller the textures, the smaller your file size, and we're trying to stay under a certain file size. That way it doesn't crash when we actually play it. So, and that's the file size of the total arc file. So your BMD, your collision, your animations files, everything that has to do with that track, including the objects, has to be under that size. And that size is determined by whether or not it crashes. So just try to be as efficient as you can in textures as well as models, and so on and so forth. But from here, I'm actually going to get ready to export my model. So one of the things we're going to have to do is take and make these all no, I'm lying to you. We still have to bake in our shadows. So Cassini has actually made a fantastic shadow baking tutorial. In fact, I'm going to be following it right now because every time I have to do it, I have to look back at that video and relearn how to do it. So we're going to do that real quick, and I'll be right back, and then we'll see it with a little bit of shadowing and vertex colors. Okay, we're back. I got it baked roughly. I definitely need to go in here and lighten some things up and do a lot of manual editing in terms of vertex colors. Uh, but it's good enough for the example, so we'll just move forward with it because I'm trying to get this video out here today. So from here, we're going to take everything. I've already separated everything by material, and you do that by going into edit mode, selecting all, and then separate by material. So I've also renamed all of my materials and all of my meshes, and all my materials to be the same thing, just so that I can keep track of it better. But from here, we need to take everything. We're going to rotate this negative x in 90 degrees so that our y position is y is up, positive y is up. And then we're going to go Control A and apply all transforms. And then from here, we can actually rotate it back. And if we need to edit it, we can edit it. And as long as we don't apply those transforms again, it stays with the proper rotation. From here, we have all of our texture work and baking done. We also have to rotate these boost panels 90 degrees in the negative position. I believe because when we get to the the vanilla material settings for these, it rotates them. So that should be good. I believe I rotated in the proper direction. It could be the other way around, but we'll see shortly. So from here, save and export. You can export Collida or FBX. Either way will work. Going to name it VizDAE. And then from here, you can either drag and drop your model onto your Super BMD EXE. I have all of my DAEs to automatically open with that application, so I can just double click mine. Then we have our model. Again, the shadows are far from perfect. Probably way too dark and too ugly looking, especially on these guys right here too. So that will be edited in the future, but like I said, I'm just going to get it good enough for now, and then do that later. So from here, we can actually take a vanilla course like Waluigi Stadium. We can take our boost material, and then we can actually just export the preset, and then import preset over that one. And that will do all the colors, all of the pixel transparency stuff, all your samples, and then all of the stages that you're texturing. Stages of texturing. And I think we're going to have to scale that down. Yeah. So, and then I'm going to go over the boost panels after I figure out exactly how they wanted to do it. I've done it before, so I'll just look at what I've done and then get them exact for the texture animation tutorial. That should be coming out probably after we do the collision. We'll do the collision next, and then we'll do texture animation after that. Are these facing the right way? Oh man, there's no way to tell. But that'll work. That'll be it for today. Uh, have fun building, and I'll see y'all on the next tutorial pretty soon. And real quick before I go, this is how the animations look with the boost panels. So I believe that's backwards, so I should have flipped it the other way. But like I said, we'll get into all of the nitty gritty when we do the animation tutorial. That will teach you a little bit with the bone animations, mostly with texture animations, the swapping animations, and the translating, rotating animations. That'll work. Have fun building, and hope to see y'all guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.